Hey everyone, welcome to Grind Smarter, your one-stop spot for crushing school, exams, and everything in between. I am so pumped you are here. Before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on the best study hacks, exam tips, and guides to dominate your classes and reach your biggest goals. No wasting time today. This is your complete AP Biology review to help you get a 4 or 5 on the AP Bio exam. If you stay with me all the way through, you will know exactly what you need to succeed. And at the end, I will show you where you can grab a totally free, downloadable practice exam, multiple choice answer key, and 5 sample FRQs with outlines on how to crush them. Let us go. Unit 1 is Chemistry of Life. Biology starts at the chemical level. You must know the essential elements of life: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Understand how the polarity of water leads to hydrogen bonding, which creates cohesion, adhesion, surface tension, and high specific heat. These properties make water essential for life. You also need to know about macromolecules. Carbohydrates store energy and provide structural support. Lipids store energy long-term and are key components of cell membranes with their hydrophobic and hydrophilic regions. Proteins are made of amino acids and perform almost every job inside cells. Enzymes are proteins that speed up reactions by lowering activation energy. Nucleic acids like DNA and RNA store and transmit genetic information. You must understand dehydration synthesis and hydrolysis. Dehydration synthesis builds polymers by removing water. Hydrolysis breaks them apart by adding water. Know your functional groups like hydroxyl, carboxyl, and phosphate groups because they show up in every biomolecule. Unit 2 is Cell Structure and Function. Cells are the basic units of life. Make sure you know the differences between prokaryotic cells, which have no nucleus or membrane-bound organelles, and eukaryotic cells, which do. Know the organelles and their functions. The nucleus stores DNA. Ribosomes build proteins. The rough ER folds proteins, and the smooth ER synthesizes lipids and detoxifies. Mitochondria produce ATP through cellular respiration. Chloroplasts perform photosynthesis. Lysosomes break down waste. Vacuoles store materials. The cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer with embedded proteins that control what enters and leaves the cell. Understand passive transport like diffusion and osmosis, where substances move down their concentration gradients without energy, and active transport, where cells use energy to move substances against a gradient. Be ready to explain how large molecules are transported through endocytosis and exocytosis. Unit 3 is Cellular Energetics. This is all about how cells get and use energy. Enzymes are biological catalysts. Know how they work and how temperature, pH, and substrate concentration affect enzyme activity. In photosynthesis, light reactions occur in the thylakoid membranes of chloroplasts, capturing light energy to produce ATP and NADPH. The Calvin cycle occurs in the stroma and uses ATP and NADPH to fix carbon dioxide into glucose. In cellular respiration, glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, breaking glucose into pyruvate. The Krebs cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix, producing electron carriers like NADH and FAD2. Oxidative phosphorylation occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane, where electrons are passed down the electron transport chain, creating a proton gradient that powers ATP synthase to make lots of ATP. Oxygen is the final electron acceptor, and without it, cells switch to fermentation. Unit 4 is Cell Communication and the Cell Cycle. Cells communicate through chemical signals. You must know the 3 stages of signaling: reception, transduction, and response. Ligands bind to receptors and initiate a cascade of events inside the cell. Know examples like G-protein coupled receptors and second messengers like cyclic AMP. Feedback mechanisms regulate biological systems. Negative feedback maintains homeostasis like insulin regulation of blood glucose, while positive feedback amplifies responses like oxytocin during childbirth. For the cell cycle, understand the stages G1, S, G2, and M phase. Mitosis divides the nucleus into 2 identical daughter cells. Know the steps: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, followed by cytokinesis. Regulation is controlled by checkpoints and proteins like cyclins and CDKs. When checkpoints fail, cells can become cancerous. Unit 5 is Heredity. Genetics is key. Know how to set up and solve monohybrid and dihybrid Punnett squares. Understand the difference between complete dominance, codominance, and incomplete dominance. Be able to predict outcomes and ratios. Study sex-linked traits like color blindness and hemophilia, which are carried on the X chromosome. Understand linked genes, recombination frequency, and the idea of genetic mapping. Mendel's law of segregation says each gamete gets 1 allele. Law of independent assortment says genes on different chromosomes assort independently. Also, review mitochondrial inheritance where traits are passed only from mothers, and non-Mendelian patterns like polygenic inheritance and environmental effects on phenotype. Unit 6 is gene expression and regulation. The central dogma is critical. DNA is transcribed into RNA, which is then translated into proteins. Transcription happens in the nucleus where RNA polymerase binds to promoters and makes a complementary mRNA strand. RNA is processed with a 5' cap, poly A tail, and intron splicing. Translation happens at the ribosome, where codons in the mRNA are read to build a protein with the help of tRNA. Regulation happens at multiple levels. In prokaryotes, operons like the ELAC operon control gene expression based on environmental conditions. In eukaryotes, transcription factors, RNA processing, and epigenetic modifications like DNA methylation regulate gene expression. Mutations like point mutations and frame shifts can disrupt protein function and lead to diseases. Unit 7 is natural selection. Evolution is the backbone of biology. Natural selection acts on phenotypic variations. Know Darwin's observations and conclusions. Be able to explain how populations, not individuals, evolve. Understand genetic drift, the random changes in allele frequency, and the bottleneck and founder effects. Gene flow introduces new alleles from other populations. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium provides a mathematical baseline for non-evolving populations. Remember the 5 conditions: no mutations, random mating, no natural selection, extremely large population size, and no gene flow. Be able to calculate allele frequencies using Hardy-Weinberg equations. Review evidence for evolution, comparative anatomy, embryology, molecular biology, and fossil records. Unit 8 is ecology. Ecology connects all living things. Understand how energy flows through ecosystems and food chains and food webs. Only about 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next. Know the biogeochemical cycles, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, and water cycle, and how human activities disrupt them. Study population dynamics, exponential versus logistic growth, carrying capacity and density-dependent and density-independent factors. Recognize interactions like competition, predation, symbiosis including mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Understand the structure and dynamics of communities and ecosystems and how ecosystems recover after disturbances. You did it! If you are still here, you are serious about getting that 4 or 5 and you are already way ahead of most students. Now it is time to lock it all in. Practice is the key to success. Make sure you download the free Practice AP Biology exam linked in the description. It includes multiple choice questions with a full answer key and 5 sample FRQ questions with guided outlines to help you learn exactly how to structure your answers and maximize your points. Stay positive, stay focused, and believe in yourself. You have got everything it takes to crush this exam. Smash that subscribe button and like this video if you want even more study hacks, tips, and complete guides coming your way. I am cheering you on, and I will see you in the next video. Let us grind smarter.